And for post-secondary students, it is graduation time. It's an exciting but also nerve-wracking time. People are faced with finding a job, a place to live, saving for a down payment or their retirement, and for many, start paying down their student loans. Mark Ting is here to discuss his top financial tips for post-secondary graduates. He's our guide to personal finance, as well as an instructor, not the only one, at Simon Fraser University. Hello.
Hi.
So, the places you'll go, what words of wisdom have you got for anyone graduating right now as they make that transition from, a student to becoming a productive party of the workforce?
So I mentioned a book, and there's one particular book that I think is extremely important, particularly at this time frame or stage in their life. It's called The Psychology of Money. It's written by Morgan Housel. So I could sum up the book, but I would say the reason I recommend this particular book is because I actually believe that they'll start it and they'll finish it.
Oh, okay.
It's about 15 chapters, all have sort of stories and they're anecdotes, and every chapter has a good message. Now, if I had to sum it up into a couple sentences, like what's the major theme of this book, it is if you want to be on a very strong financial footing or give your best chance to succeed, you should think and save like a pessimist, but you should invest like an optimist. And the idea being, if you think like a pessimist, if you save like a pessimist,
okay,
then if you're ready for when bad things happen financially. So you're always playing devil's advocate. What if I lose my job? What if my investments go down?
Worst case scenario.
Worst case scenarios. So you have your buffer emergency fund for that. However, on the investment side, most people always go to the worst case scenario.
True.
And they often sell at the wrong time. They buy at the wrong time. But if you think like an optimist, then you think things will recover. The economy is going to do fine. People are going to get back on track. People are going to get their jobs. Recession is going to go away. Then those are often the best times to invest.
Okay.
Unfortunately, people generally save like
flip that up.
Yeah, they save like an optimist and they invest like a pessimist.
So I get it in theory, but could you give us just like a real world example of saving like a pessimist and investing like an optimist?
Yeah. What happens is a tragedy or something bad happens financially. It's unexpected. And a perfect example is today. I got a phone call from my wife. She got some bad news today. She got laid off from her job.
Oh.
So she told me about it. She was upset, obviously. She was surprised. We totally did not expect this to happen. She's very well liked at her job. And then, of course, the first thoughts are, oh my God, this is, she has a professional job and now it's going to go away. What are we going to do next? Yeah. Luckily, we saved like a pessimist. So me being a small business owner, I always had a bit of a buffer, knowing that often my expenses will be higher. I never really expected her to lose her job, but because I had this buffer, then I told her, look, we're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to find another job. In the meantime, we do have savings. Don't worry about it. So then on the optimistic part of it, I was like, okay, Aiko, think about it. Like, you're well liked at your job.
Right.
The reason she got laid off wasn't about her. It was her role across the whole organization went away. And she's already heard from her management that they're really trying to get her back and try to find something in that organization. So I was like, just be optimistic. Things will work out.
Okay.
We're going to be fine. And luckily, we have these buffers and we don't have to do anything drastic, just in case she does lose that paycheck if it happens to be for a couple months.
But if you're in this, you are in this unexpected change in your family's finance. So how will it affect, your current savings and investment strategy when you're in the thick of it?
Right. So that's sort of my job. And I went there right away. So in any budget, finances for a family, you should have short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals. So the emergency fund is short-term. And now that I know that she's lost her job, my percentages in each category, in each bucket, changes.
Okay.
Because I went under the assumption originally, up until today, that I would have this income. So now that this income is maybe going away for a short time, who knows, then I have to adjust that. So what will happen is my long-term investments, those types of goals, those are usually in the stock market or whatever it is.
Right.
I'm going to cut that. I'm going to narrow that. I'm going to drop that percentage-wise, and I'm going to add to my short-term, just in case. So yeah, it's something, as the variables change, you also have to adapt your budget. And I would say that to anybody. Whenever there's a life event, good or bad, you should be making these adjustments. Talk to your financial advisor and say, hey, like this is happening. Should we make these changes? Because you should always thinking short, medium, and long-term goals.
Okay. And, with the Canadian economy slowing and, as you know, a record number of layoffs, do you have any tips for new graduates to improve their chances of landing a job in this market?
Right. We talked about this quite a lot because I had the gambit of students in my class. So I had people that had business degrees, knew way more about investing than I did in terms of derivatives, auction tradings, all these sorts of things, all the way to the social science, the feel-good sciences, like psychology degrees and whatnot. And the one thing I said was, from what I know, and I do hire people, I do run a business, the whole theory of it's not what you know and who you know, it actually comes into play quite a bit. So what they want to do is really scour, if they haven't found a job already, sort of scour their brain, find out some center of influences, reach out to them. Don't expect that they're going to vouch for you or get you a job, because that's the other part I said. You have to make a good impression. If you're asking somebody to vouch for you or maybe try to get you in a company, that means they're putting their reputation on the line.
Absolutely.
So you really have to prove yourself, and don't expect that. So the example I gave is I probably get asked for recommendations about 10 times a year from various different people, and I actually only follow through with maybe one or two.
Okay.
But the one or two that I follow through, I'll actually put a lot of time and effort into that, and 9 times out of 10, they do end up with those positions. So reputation is really important, and then, of course, marketable skills. They have to be problem solvers. Right now, the world needs problem solvers. And if you can make your boss's job easier by solving problems without going to them, you're going to be very valuable to that organization, and they're going to want to hire you.
And not all your students are graduating this year. So what advice do you have for them?
Again, it goes back to those marketable skills.
Okay.
You always want skills that someone else is willing to pay for. And the one thing that we talked about quite a bit was artificial intelligence. And the one tip that I had, it was like, artificial intelligence is not a fad. It's here to stay.
Right.
It's overblown. Like everything is artificial intelligence nowadays. But if there's courses at SFU or somebody else or some other post-secondary education or anywhere really, I would brush up on that. Because I'm hearing through people, HR departments, that if people know just how to talk AI, like all the buzzwords and everything else, that puts them in a different category, because that's what a lot of employers are looking for. So that's my recommendation for them, is find those courses and
embrace
go for
it. Don't run away from it. Thank you, Mark.